So my name's Jennifer. I have been working and riding horses for about 17 years. And this is Reno. He is a Mustang. And I've worked at DDH since since August. So this August it'll be a year, and I'm very passionate about helping people learn and develop their skills with horses because they've made a huge impact in my life that's very significant. So with Reno today, we're gonna work on, last week we worked on the cruising lesson, so keeping him at a walk, trot, and canter and having him maintain his own speed. And today we're increasing our expectations from that to making him stay the direction that we want him to stay and kind of maintain his own direction. So right now, I'm just gonna put on his bridle, and when I do that, I take the halter and I'm gonna tie it to his neck, and then I just drape the lead rope over my hand. That way, if he were to try to go off or like run off, then I have a chance of getting him. So I'm just gonna untangle all this. We don't wanna let these ropes hit the ground when they're in their mouth. But if they're touching the ground when we're just untangling it and it's not making contact with him, it's fine. But I still don't untangle it by their feet in case they were to step on it and things like that. So now I'm gonna take the reins and I'm gonna put it over his head. And then with my other hand, I'm gonna come in between his ears and have my right arm be like a lever that can go up and down. And I'm gonna make him lower his head a little bit more before I put his bit in his mouth, because I want him to keep his head down so that he doesn't bump me in the head. That's the word, couldn't find it. Now I'll take the other end of the Makati reins and I'll just tie them to the horn. We'll tie a slip knot and attach it to the horn so it's not hanging down too far. And I just want to adjust it so it's not hanging past his knee. So he can have some slack hanging down around his neck as long as he can't step on it. And then I'll take the extra and I'll do another slip knot. And I'll just hold it there. That way it's not past his knee. And then I'm just gonna do his throat latch. And I like his head tipped towards me as I'm doing everything so that I have his attention. And then I'm just gonna take his halter off. I'm actually gonna need this for just a second. And I'm gonna lead him over here. Just get rid of these lead ropes for right now. I know. Yeah, you can't have that water. Reno's very curious. He wants to drink out of my water bottle, but I don't think he could figure it out. Okay, so anytime before I get on the horse, I'm always gonna double check their cinch and make sure it's tight enough. The last thing I wanna do is ride underneath their belly. It's not a very comfortable place to be. I've done it once, and once was enough for me, you know? So now I'm really good at checking. Get his attention back on me. He keeps kind of just veering away. Okay, so now that I got that adjusted, I'm just gonna go ahead and get on him after I check my stirrup length. This goes down 1 for me. Now traditionally we get on from the left side, but it's really good for our horses when we're training to practice the left and right. We want them to be proficient at both and not freak out when something's next to them. Oh. So for this exercise, what I want him, the goal is to get him to maintain, eventually to be able to put my hand like on the rail of the fence and for him to stay in a straight line across. People think horses are really good at maintaining their own direction, and they're really not. And we have to correct it a lot, but we want to get him responsible for correcting his own direction. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pick a distance. It's probably gonna be about, I guess, like a foot off of here. So when you're starting the exercise, you can start 20 feet out, you can start 10 feet out, but you need to find a starting point that works for you and your horse. I've done this once or twice with him, so I know about 12 feet. I'm really bad at distance. This might be 15. I don't know. Somewhere in there is close enough for him to start without worrying. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take him along the fence, and I'm not gonna steer him. Unless he crosses over that 15-foot line, then I'm gonna redirect him back so that he's responsible for staying against the fence. And then after he gets better at that, then we'll increase how close we are, and eventually we want to get to the point where our hand is on the fence railing. I mean, I don't ride with it there, but you could reach your hand out and touch the fence, and that's where we want him to be able to maintain. And so I don't have to keep steering him and redirecting him. So right now he's doing great where he's just stopping and waiting. So now I'm going to ask him to go, and I'm going to take him back towards the end of the fence line. And originally I am going to steer him towards the fence, and then I'm going to let him maintain it from this point. Now horses don't learn very fast or well at a walk, so most of this I'm going to do at a trot. Go against this fence. Actually, I'm not gonna go against that fence. I remembered we don't have a camera over there. So I'm gonna come this way again. Now right here, I'm just gonna leave him alone. So now we're going to do the same thing, but at a canter. Now right there, he was like going to push my leg into the fence, and just out of instinct, I pulled him away. But what we want to do instead is pull his nose towards the fence, so that if he, because once they hit their nose on the fence, they really don't like hitting our leg into the fence. And it doesn't really take many times to hit their nose in the fence where they're like, you know what, that doesn't feel very good. So that's how we want to correct that. So I'm gonna ask him again, and I'm gonna do it at a canter now. So if we don't ever, like if I were to get him and take him in the arena, he's gonna be pretty good at it, right? He's gonna be pretty good at maintaining his own pace in the arena and staying against the fence, because there's not a lot of distractions. Out here, there's a ton of distractions. But the reality is we want him to listen regardless of distraction, right? When I was a kid, sometimes we would like play the radio super loud as we rode, or just different things to get him ready for shows, because you want as many distractions as is safe to help them learn that they need to pay attention to you as the rider and not go play with other horses. So I'm gonna repeat it again. I'm gonna lead him. So I'm gonna lead him, every time I correct, I'm taking him all the way to the fence first. Before I head out, do you guys have any questions? No? Okay. Okay, well if you do, let me know. Okay, so I'm gonna take him out again. I'm gonna squeeze, and I'm gonna cluck, and then I'm gonna spank. Take him back again. I think one of the hardest parts of doing this exercise is not accidentally correcting the second they mess up. It's like waiting for them to cross that line. But that's important so that we're not nagging, because if he crosses the line, I mean, if I keep directing him over and over and over and I don't let him make the mistake, I'm gonna have to direct him for the rest of his horse career of riding him, right? And so I want him to become responsible of like, hey, this is your straight line, right? We're gonna maintain a line unless I ask you to go somewhere else. And if I constantly correct him, then he's just gonna be used to that. And so we have to wait until he makes a big enough mistake that he realizes it's a mistake. So I hold the correction until he gets against the fence, and then we'll do it again. So I'm squeezing, clucking, now I'm gonna spank. He's moving off again, and I'm gonna keep spanking to get him to go towards that fence at the speed that I'm asking. So veering off, back. Better. He's still not quite getting to these corners. Horses really don't like corners. So when we rest him and take a break, we'll take a break in the corner, and it makes the corner all of a sudden feel like a treat instead of a really scary, trapped, claustrophobic feeling. I'm gonna wait. Okay, so now I just keep my reins here. I'm not correcting with my legs either unless he crosses over about 15 feet that I'm redirecting. So squeeze, cluck, spank. He's gonna be the wrong direction. So now he's crossed that line, so I'm gonna keep correcting him until he gets all the way against the fence. And I won't let him run over you guys, even if it's in the 15 feet line, I promise. So I'm gonna keep spanking. And I'm still correcting because he hasn't gotten against the fence yet. Now he's against the fence. And I'll ask again. Now he's off the fence. I'm gonna correct again. I think sometimes we forget that we can correct at our current gait. So we don't have to always slow him down to a walk. So right there, he kind of slowed down, and it was a spot that I would normally slow him down. But I don't love that he's breaking his own gait before me. It was only like a half second longer than I would have waited. So I just pushed him past it, knowing that I'm gonna veer off, but I want him to not like slow down unless I'm asking him to. Just gonna lead him back over again. And a lot of training horses is endless repetition, because that's how they learn. It's just like us. We don't wake up one day knowing how to read, you know, got to start at the ABCs. So the same thing with them. They need an equal gas pedal brake, and then they need to learn to maintain a straight line, and then we can go on to more intricate maneuvers from that point. So I'm asking him again. Squeeze, cluck. Still not listening, so then I'll start spanking. I'm gonna direct him faster than 15 feet because I don't want to run over you guys. Then we'll go again. So right here, he's crossed. Now I direct. I'm gonna hold it till he's against the fence and also get him up to the speed that I'm asking. Now there, he's crossed. So your question was how old he is. I think that he is 8, if I remember right. So, and 8 is, his brain's fully developed at that point. So I think it's between 8 and 11. I would have to verify that, but they're pretty fully developed by 8. So he's out of excuses, I guess is what I'm saying. There's no more baby excuses for him.
Yeah. Now he's got to learn how to do it.
Yeah, now he's got to do it anyways. Okay, so I'm going to keep spanking him because he's, and now right there, he's pulling my leg in. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to ask him again. So I notice right back where those trees hang over and the horses are, every time I get there, he's veering off. So that was why just a second ago I did a couple laps right there because that's his weak spot and where he really is doing pretty bad. Unfortunately, I don't think the camera can see there very well either. So now I'm going to ask him to go. So I'm going to squeeze, cluck. And because I'm just starting, I am correcting him so that we're starting against the fence. And then when he veers off after we're going, then I'll wait to correct. So I'm going to correct again. And I'm still going to increase this speed because I want him to be maintaining it. Hi, guys. I want him to be maintaining his speed. And every time I correct him, if I have to stop him to correct it, then he's getting a release on the speed portion on the gate, and I don't want him to get that release. So right there. So I'm gonna cluck and squeeze. He's gonna be distracted by these horses. That's okay. It's good for him to have things he's distracted by. Huh? Oh.
Like everyone else usually just
Yeah, I think it's a little small for me, but it's good. So he's still going really off. He really wants to be with the herd of the other horses going on a trail ride. So I'm just gonna keep asking. Get him back against the fence. He's getting kind of aggressive, so I'm a little more firm too. And then I'm gonna ask again. Right there, he's off. So I'm gonna keep increasing that pressure for speed and direct him at the same time. So right here, same thing. So yeah, he's losing his mind a little bit, not being part of the team. He's pretty sad. He wanted to go on a trail ride. But it's good for him to, yeah. All right, there I go. Back there, I made an assumption that he was going to stay against the fence and he didn't. And we don't want to guess where the horse is going to go because I almost lost my balance and came off because I thought he was going to be here and he went here. And if you just look between their ears and you don't try to guess where they're going to go, you have a lot better balance and chances of staying on. Because it's like anytime if we're like veering one way and then they change, our body's off center, and it could be slightly and it's still going to make a difference. So mostly I'm just like kind of looking in between his ears, but like forward. So that I'm not, if I look, like if I think I'm gonna go to the left, and so I start looking to the left, yeah, which like if you, I did barrel racing lessons for a little while, and if you're doing like going around a turn, if you look the way that you're going, it preps your body and your horse for the turn. And so there are times when we're riding that's really beneficial. But if your horse isn't good at staying at the place that you tell them to, if you guess and you're slightly turned, if I'm turned this way and he goes that way, it's really easy to lose your balance because my momentum's going to the left when his goes to the right, which is why we want to, especially when training a horse, stay as centered as possible so that whatever direction they dive or they change their mind in a split second to go, then we're with the horse on that. And if you ever do like cutting, like watch cutting horses that are getting cattle and they'll like dive side to side, that rider has to be really good at making sure they're always centered because we can't guess in those situations.
They're amazing because they've got so much going on.
I know. Well, the sensitivity that they have, I went to buy a horse once and it was this reining horse, and I hadn't, honestly, it was like a break between when I had my kids, and so I hadn't ridden in like a couple years. And there was a steer in the middle of the arena, and I couldn't decide in my head. It was like a fake steer, just like a little plastic thing. But I was like, man, do I go to the left or go to the right? And it was a split second that I didn't think about it. And so the horse just ran into it because he was that trained where he knew like to go where I asked him to go. Wow. Luckily it was tiny and plastic and he was totally fine. But you got to pick, you know, in your brain, because they're pretty good at telling your senses. A really refined horse, if you slightly like look a direction or flex differently, they're going to move that direction. And so that's part of what we're doing with him, is training him to be that refined. But until he is, and even once he is, you want to make sure that your balance is very centered on your horse. Okay. I think I'll try it 2 more times. And then he doesn't have to be, when you're training a horse, they're not going to be perfect at it. I know you guys don't have that expectation, but they're not going to be perfect at it the first time. So really what our goal with him is to get him to get the concept. If he were to be doing some like crazy, silly behavior, we don't want to end on that note. Like I don't want to, the moment that he veers off, I don't want to hop off at that moment. But it's okay if he's not perfectly maintaining this and then I get off. You just don't want to get off on their bad moment. Do you guys know why?
Because they may think it's correct.
Yeah, because it's a reward. So it's like a release of pressure. Like, great, you got off, awesome, I did the right thing. So we want to make sure they end on the right thing, but they don't have to be doing the right thing the whole time. I'm not going to let him run into you, so I'll wait till he, keep correcting him now. Correct him all the way to the fence again, and then ask again. I'm waiting, now he crossed over, and I'll bring him all the way back. I'm going to bring him up to a little bit higher speed. Direct him back over. Now at this point of his training, I really should have spurs on, because then my corrections can be quite a bit smaller and I want it to be softer on his mouth. Mine lost a screw the other day, so that's why I don't have them on, but ideally we would have spurs at this point because you can roll them and creates kind of like a ticklish sensation that helps them move off pressure without increasing pressure in the mouth quite much. Now that might have been our worst one yet. So I'm going to try one more time. We'll see. So I'm going to lead him against the fence first. I think he's just showing you what it looks like in real life, you know? This is the beginning first product, right? This is only, I think this is the second time I've ever done this with him. And the first time was a while ago. So yeah, it's raw. You guys get to see it nice and raw.
Well, I know what he was like last year to stand still. And so even though he's still wiggly, he's so much better than he was.
Yeah, he is better than he was. He still needs a lot of work when it comes to standing tied, especially. And then, but like everything, it's just consistency, clear communication, and repetition. So. Wait till he crosses, bring him back. Crosses again, bring him back. Now we're lined up against the fence almost. So now I'm going to ask him again. Crease it here. Cross over. Bring collision. That's great. I appreciate it. We're going to move the fin off and we're going to go and head back. So I'm leaning him up against the fence. So I'm still correcting him until he's against has a good starting point lined up against the fence. And then I'm going to ask again. Leave him off, take him back. Ask again. That time I didn't have to spank, which is great. So right there, he's getting really close to slamming my leg in. So just because he did that and we slowed down to the walk because we were at the end of the fence, I'm going to turn him around and make him go back that way, just that portion, so that he doesn't end on thinking slamming my foot into the fence or leg into the fence is a good idea. I don't want to end there. I like my kneecaps, you know. All right, so lined up again, I'm going to ask. Still not going. Okay, so I'm going to correct. Ask again. Right there. That's what I don't want, is his leg, my leg pressed against that fence. So he tried again. Probably because I let him get to a walk when he was at a trot. So he thought it was kind of a release, which we don't want him to do. So right here, he's really trying to push my foot in, or my leg against there. So I'm going to turn him around. Get him off the fence a little bit. Establish that starting point again, and then ask again. See if I can push him past it. Right there, he's off the line. Direct him back over to the fence. And then I'm gonna ask again. He's off again. Direct him back over to the fence. I'm gonna ask again. Squeeze, clutch. Good. Almost over. See if we can go this way without him trying to push my leg in, and if we can, then we'll call that good for the day. Direct back over. Okay, so I feel like we ended on an okay note, just a little pass. So a couple takeaways that I'm noticing from what I did with him is that we need to spend a lot more time at a canter with him, because at the canter he veers really bad, and that's pretty normal for them to be worse at a higher speed. And then I need to spend a lot more repetition back there where the horses are. So that's what I'll be working on. And then just for me personally, there are times that I corrected him too many times. So I need to make sure that I'm waiting till he crosses that line and then correct him over. Overall, I'm okay with what you did. Yeah, it was pretty good. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't even close to perfect. But for a first go around, it's acceptable. We'll give him the approved stamp, and then we'll just work from where he's at.